Paula is one of Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa's first students, has done many, many years of retreat. So we can rest assured that, like with Venerable Renee, we are receiving direct experiential teachings. So very precious to have Paula here, and we hope that this is only the beginning of a very long relationship with Paula over the next number of years. So thank you so much for coming.
Well, Nina Highfield's a good friend of mine, so if I come back to the United States, I'll come back here and do something more than just a intro weeknight thing. But it's such a small group. I just wonder if we should just chat and answer your Dharma questions or something. I mean, do you have pressing Dharma questions or anything? I mean, I could start with a meditation, and then if you have, because I met Karen yesterday, and we had a long talk. I was hoping she'd come tonight because Ling Rinpoche is coming, and she was wondering whether or not she should take the Yamantaka empowerment. So are any other of you people wondering whether or not you should do that, or you're sure you don't want to, or wondering about it or anything? Oh, there is. Oh, hello, Zoom audience. Okay.
You have a question? Yeah.
Okay. I'm just overwhelmed at how cool this place is. I mean, it's so up, like the Zoom and the that you have this place. It's and it's outside of town, so it's quiet and it's really amazing. Well, I just hope that this center continues to grow, and you're so fortunate you have Geshe Sherab and Rabina's coming. And does Renee come here very often? Has Renee been here much? He spends most of his time in retreat, so. But everywhere I go, I hear about Geshe Sherab. You know, he's like the rock star these days of, teachers. And so my friends in Reno really love him. I think he goes to Reno pretty often. And yeah, so you're just really, really fortunate. So yeah, so why are we here? You know, the main reason we're here is to develop bodhicitta, isn't it? I mean, we want to. I think most of us enter the Dharma because at least a lot of us are very concerned about human nature and human minds and the state of our world. And I think looks like everybody in the audience is about my age. And so I can't see the Zoom people, but I just assumed that, we've all grown up and in a time when we thought things might get better, but things aren't getting better. I think the times are getting more degenerate. I mean, there's so many more people now. I was telling the folks here that I used to live around here about 50 years ago, and it's unbelievable. I can't believe I can say that, but I can say that. But I was still in college, so I was still quite young. But Santa Fe's changed so much, and I mean, I've just been gone from the United States only about 5 years, but even everywhere, it just seems like everywhere's changed, so much just since the pandemic. And I live in the Shetland Islands, which, if you don't know where they are, they're part of the UK. They belong to Scotland, and it's a small set of islands. The main island's about 90 miles long, Jeff? 90 miles long and maybe 30 miles wide or something. And it's about 100 miles north of Scotland and maybe 150 miles west of Norway. So it's really in the middle of nowhere. And it's very beautiful, and it has a lot of space like this place does, but it's not dry, it's very wet. And yeah, not many trees. It's beautiful. A lot of people watch the TV show Shetland. They like that TV show. They see it there. So yeah, well, in 2017, I was leading a retreat with Lama Zopa Rinpoche in Lama Tsongkhapa Institute, which is in Italy, in Tuscany, in Italy. And it was a big retreat with about 400 people were there at the end. Lots of the, all the a lot of the European students. And at that time, at the end of the retreat, I was like Rinpoche gave the talks and I led the meditations. It was a very honorable situation. It was really great. It was a Chinrezi retreat. And I think we all were supposed to count 600,000 Chinrezi. It was a month-long retreat with Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And at the end of it, he told everyone basically that I should teach in Europe. And so soon after that, my friend over here, Jeff, my partner now, actually my husband now, invited me to Shetland. And actually that same year. And so I ended up moving to Shetland and was there during the pandemic. But the topic of tonight was Guru Yoga. And so I'm actually in Shetland because of Guru Yoga. I mean, Jeff is the cooperative condition, and he's a wonderful person that's come into my life. But I think it was all kind of, and Jeff is a very old student also of Lama Yeshe's. So I'm very fortunate and he has had a lot to do with Dharma development in the UK. So when it came time for my life to change, I was very fortunate to have someone who could help me do that and give me a really different life. Because up until then, I had what we say, given up the affairs of this life and was very, very poor and didn't know where I was going to live. And I didn't have a retirement. I didn't have anything because I'd given my whole life to Buddhism. And so Jeff has stepped in to make my life better. So I'm really grateful to Jeff and to Lama Zopa Rinpoche, because if Rinpoche hadn't said move to Europe, I wouldn't have, So that's where I live now. And we have a little retreat place there where people come and do retreat. And Nina and Jeff were there 2 years ago, 2 years ago. And Nina did her first High Yoga Tantra retreat, and we did the fire puja there. And she had a really good time. And Jeff was just there for a couple of weeks. So I'd known them before because I taught in Zurich at their center in Zurich, but we got to be really good friends. So I'm sorry to miss her, but and I'm so pleased she lives in Crestone now. So we end at 8:30, right? So I should get to them. Yeah.
Paul, I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how you started into this path of Buddhism.
Okay, I'll do that first. I'll try to make it short because we could talk a whole hour about that. Well, I grew up in Berkeley, California in the 60s, and it was kind of hip to be Buddhist, when you were in high school. So I started in high school with reading like Zen books, because that was when Suzuki Roshi was in San Francisco, and the San Francisco Zen Center, and Gary Snyder, and it was Jack Kerouac, all that stuff, was ordering. And when I was at university, I actually lived in a house with a Zen practitioner, and I was kind of a little bit afraid of Zen, but I considered myself a Buddhist, but it wasn't really my practice. I was a dancer. So I felt like, my practice was dance, and because it was also about concentration and all that stuff. But then one of my high school friends, who was also into Buddhism, introduced me to Lama Kunku Rinpoche, the Sakya Lama in Berkeley in 1979, I think. And then I met Lama Yeshe, and then that changed everything. And I think what really propelled me into the Dharma was I was very disappointed and downhearted and discouraged with my culture, including Christianity. I grew up in the Episcopal Church and went to church every Sunday until I was about 14. And wanted to study anthropology at university, but I didn't end up doing that because I wanted to find a culture that was compassionate and wise and cared about people and also cared about the environment. And of course, we were all interested back then in Native American things, but it wasn't quite right, you know. So when I met Lama Yeshe, that was just it, you know, that was what I was looking for. And so then a couple of years later, I went to India and just got introduced to, this was at the time when they were teaching us, you know, highest yoga tantra, and there are all these amazing teachings for this holiness and all these lamas that are now the young tulkus, like Ling Rinpoche and, you know, Serkon Rinpoche and Song Rinpoche, and they were all 80-year-old men then, you know, and they were amazing, you know, and having grown up in Tibet, I mean, I don't know if we'll ever see a generation like that again. So I was in graduate school at UC Berkeley, and I was wanting to do something that I was working in environmental studies, trying to come up with alternative ways of teaching people to think outside the box. Because what the problem is in our culture, besides, I mean, lots of things, but in our technological world, is that we never think of the consequences of the technologies we produce. You know, we don't, we come up with these great ideas and don't realize down the road that, oh, the pesticides are poisoning everybody. It's really good they kill the bugs, but they kill all the animals too, you know, and that kind of stuff. And so I worked with a professor who was trying to teach people how to open their minds and think differently and not have reductionist thinking, you know, A plus, you know, 1 + 1 is 2. Well, what about something over here, over here? And so I thought that Buddhism would be that. So I was looking a way to teach Dharma without it being Dharma. So that was my focus. You know, I wanted to like come up with some kind of, I don't know what it was going to be. It was an interdisciplinary studies PhD. But when I went to India, I just forgot all that and decided that what we really need is Western Dharma. In order to get Western Dharma, we have to get realizations. And I was told if you want to do realizations, you have to do solitary retreat for years and years and years and years. So I signed up, and that's what I did. And yeah, so that's a long story. Many years of retreat, like about 35 years. Not the whole time wasn't retreat, but it was just one after the other, you know. And you have to like create the, you know, build a new house or go somewhere else or do this and you just, and it was, first it was Lama Yeshe's advice, and then it was Lama Zopa Rinpoche's advice, and then it was Ripa Rinpoche's advice. And so I feel qualified to talk about Guru Yoga because I practiced it like by the book for a very long time. Um, and without kind of questioning it. And then in the last, you know, and then like 35 years goes by and I reassess and I look at what's happening in the FPMT and I look at my own life and I look at other people's lives. And it's like, well, is this working? You know? And the good thing about the reason I mentioned that university education was that what part of that education was because I thought that maybe I would like work for USAID or because I also was interested in traveling and going to Tibet and India and these things. And so one of the opportunities you could have was to be a, you know, a natural resource development person like forestry or um, uh, agriculture or something. But the professor that I worked with what we were studying was how it always goes wrong. And the reason it goes wrong is just what I was telling you. There's always unintended consequences. And the main reason is because Americans come in with their culture and try to put it on top of an already existing culture. And the example that my professor gave was when he was in USAID and he went to Nepal to do a reforestation project, and they were building a bridge. And so they brought in all this big cable. You know, you've seen those bridges, you know, the cables like that big around. They build the bridges with their suspension bridges. And they brought all this big cable in, you know, in helicopters, and then told the Sherpas they had to get it from this point to that point. Well, the Sherpa just cut it all up into pieces so they could carry it. So that's just the classic example, you know. And so I think where the way I was fortunate, that's how I survived these, like twice I did 4-year solitary retreats with nobody around. I mean, first time I had my friend, my partner at the time was nearby, but we were doing solitary retreat. And the second time I was completely by myself. And solitary confinement is the worst punishment you can give anybody. So you can imagine going through that, doing, you know, 4 or 5 meditation sessions a day and having to figure out how to psychologically survive, you know. And so luckily, you know, I had I was interested in psychology as well, but now I forgot what I was going to say. But what was I talking about? Oh, and so when the reason that the university training, and it was training in the systems approach, you know, systems thinking and knowing how everything's connected to everything. Oddly enough, I was interested in studying how everything's connected to everything else, and it's all interdependent, because that's what ecology is about. You know, they teach you, even in ecology, it's like, well, where's the tree? The tree is merely labeled because where does the tree start? Is it in the leaves? Is the oxygen coming into the tree? Is it, you know, the roots going out? And we were even told back then that in ecology, it's like everything is merely labeled. We have to label things to separate them, but it's actually all interconnected. So that's what I was attracted to study in school. So it makes sense, doesn't it, that I was studying gross dependent arising. And so then what happened was, so when I met the Dharma, and I got into my first long retreat, I started thinking about the same idea, only this time, instead of our technology going to an Eastern culture, it's an Eastern technology coming to a Western culture. But the same problem happens. The Tibetans have no idea, they do now, about our psychology, our childhoods, our families, our lifestyles, our houses, the food we eat. This is why ecology was such a great background, because I started thinking about all that. And it's like, they didn't have clocks. Everything was organic. All their houses weren't poisonous. They just subsistence farmers. They had a completely laid back life. They loved their children. When a child is born, it's like, oh, who is this? You know, and they just let their children grow up and they run and play. They don't have all the psychological baggage we have from growing up. And so when you take Tibetan Buddhism and put it in a system like this, it doesn't really work that well. This is, I mean, I know I'm Jeff saying you're going to get into trouble if you really start saying all this stuff, but it does to a certain extent. But it doesn't, I feel anyway, this is just my personal experience, that without looking at Guru Yoga and our practices with a little bit more understanding of our own backgrounds, it just becomes another layer of behavior on top of an already broken behavior, right? Because when we grow up, we what we call our personality is how we've adapted to our environments at the cost of our true authenticity and who we are. And so we start their Dharma here. Then we get on top of it. Oh, now we're going to be good Buddhists. And it doesn't touch this layer here. And so now we're all trying to be like, destroy our self-cherishing and be really kind to other people. And we get tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. And the goal is to realize Mahamudra, right? Well, Mahamudra's down here somewhere. That Mahamudra's right in the center of your heart. So how are you going to get to your heart if you have all these layers? And then you put another layer of, oh, now I'm a good Buddhist on top of that. And I'm going to say all these mantras and do all this stuff. And then I'm going to get better. But what you find is people don't really get better. You know, I mean, that's not true. We do get better. We do get better. But deeply, we still are harboring. And I mean, we definitely get better, but we all can talk about behaviors that we just can't change, you know? Like we can talk about the 8 verses for training the mind. You know, I'll always practice holding dear. All the sentient beings are more precious than the wish-granting jewel, you know? Whenever someone treats me badly with abuse, insult, and so on, I'll offer the victory. You know? But what happens for most of us is we get triggered. You know, we get somebody says something to us, and it doesn't matter how much Dharma, how many mantras we've said, still there's that compensatory behavior that we programmed into our deep psyche when we were 2 or 1 or 6 months old or just born or 5. And unless we can use the Dharma to change that, you know, then it's great we practice Dharma and we're creating cause for the future. Like so much of what Lama Zopa in the last few years, he was just giving people practices so that next life would be better. He even used to tell me that, you know, this life, we can't really change so much, but next life will be better if you say all these mantras and do all these prostrations. But I'm kind of interested in this life being better, you know, because we don't have a lot of time, you know. I mean, our climate clock is ticking really, really fast, you know, and I thought as an environmentalist 50 years ago, I thought we could stop what's happening now, you know, and we can't stop what's happening now, and it's going faster and it's getting worse, you know. So originally I thought, oh, with Buddhism, everybody can learn to be compassionate and wise and understand interdependence. And, you know, but now 50 years later, Dharma centers are still really small, you know, they're growing. But now I just feel like whoever has the karma to do this and hear this, please, let's just keep it alive, you know. Let's just keep this precious jewel of human culture alive in case some people do survive the next 100 years. I don't know. You know, we don't know if we're going to burn ourselves up and not be here, you know, not make the world might not be habitable for human beings. But if it is, you know, to me, the teachings that teach us how to be compassionate and kind and caring and wise, and also even beyond that, how to create the cause for higher rebirth, liberation, enlightenment, you know, how to understand the death process. These things are so precious. And they're so, I know, unknown in this society. And one of the things that I really, really rejoice about is that other people of my age didn't do what I did, go off and retreat, but they became, you know, professors or researchers. And now there's so much Buddhism in psychology and that it's really changing, you know. And one of the things that Jeff and I talk about is that, yes, it's great that we're having mindfulness, but wouldn't it be nice if more of Buddhism could become mainstream, you know? But I mean, I just rejoice that it's so popular now, you know? Not everybody, but a lot of people know about it. So that's kind of my introduction to me, I guess. But so I thought, but the thing that's so cool about what I've been learning in the last few years, because my first retreat, which I did first long retreat. I did other retreats, but the first long retreat was from 1991 to 1995 at Milarepa Center. It's in Vermont. It's a sister center in Vermont. And I came out of that retreat really wanting to know about trauma, which is very popular now. But this is because I felt like that's the door, that's what closes us off to our true nature, just even the relative true nature, not the ultimate true nature. And so, I've looked here and there, but in the last 5 years, there's just so much information and so many teachings about it. And so for the last few years, I was online mostly, thanks to the pandemic, listening to a woman named Sarah Payton who lives in Vancouver, Washington, who's a trauma therapist. She's really good. She's really good. And also, of course, Gabor Mate, he's like the rock star of, but what dawned on me was that actually Guru Yoga, if done with a certain amount of understanding, can be really deeply healing. And I think that for so many people, Guru Yoga becomes a form of self-oppression. I know for me it was, it's like, oh, I have to do everything the Guru tells me, and if I don't, I'm going to go to hell. And that's the message that we get, And so, but there's another way to understand Guru Yoga that can just completely heal us. So what I wanted to do is just maybe do a meditation that touches on that and then talk about it a little bit. And I'll try to do it all in an hour if I can. We'll see how we go. So does that sound okay? Anybody, how about people on Zoom? Is that good? I can't see them. So, yeah. Because, yeah. So what I wanted to do is another thing I think that helped me to be the person that I am, I guess the teacher that I am, this seems to be helpful to people, is that because I was a dancer and into yoga, I also understood the relationship between the body and the mind. And that's why I liked Tantra, because Tantra was about the body. I remember saying to somebody when I first got started, I said, well, Tantra is just like dancing without moving, because you're moving stuff, you're moving energy and being aware of your inner work. Because dancers, if you're a good dancer, you're very aware of your inner world, your inner environment. So what I want to do is start with a more physical oriented meditation. And I don't make up the things I do. They're all within lineages. I try to be a very authentic teacher, because I do believe in lineage and that it's important to hold lineages, which is why I, my training is so traditional. So this actual meditation comes from Padampa Sangye, who was one of those great yogis in the 11th century at the time of Tibet. And he was the guru of Machik Labdran. Maybe some of you have heard of Machik Labdran. She is the Dakini Yogini Buddha who started the Chöd practice. But Padampa Sangye in his own right was a very powerful Lama. And if you read Yogi Mahasiddha, if you read the 100,000 Songs of Milarepa, there's one of the stories is when Milarepa meets Padampa Sangye along the road, and Milarepa disguises himself as a flower, and Padampa Sangye comes along and says, Mila, come out of that flower, I can see, so they have this, they kind of play their Siddha games together, so. Okay, so first we have to make our motivation and take refuge. Yeah. So, so for all sentient beings throughout infinite space, and it's helpful to take a moment to expand our awareness out into infinite space. And imagine that that infant, and actually New Mexico is a great place for that because we're so spacious. So expanding way out into infinite space. And that space, every single bit of space is filled with a sentient being. All kinds, all 6 realms. And here we are in the center. And in order to benefit sentient beings, we first have to take care of ourselves. So we begin all of our meditations, and this comes from the Lama Chopa, extensive Lama Chopa commentary, that we always begin Lama Chopa with a few minutes to adjust our posture and our breathing. So we can begin by feeling our feet on the floor or our sit bones on our cushion. Just take our awareness into the outline of our body, kind of feeling the space that we inhabit, our skin. And we can just know that all the sentient beings around us, we don't have to continue to hold that in our minds. And maybe we can just begin by grounding ourselves a little bit, by breathing into our belly. And make sure our clothes are loose enough that we can let our stomach be as big as it needs to be. And notice if our legs are tight. I know I always get nervous and tense my legs up. So maybe feel the soles of your feet and feel the connection between your sitting bones and the soles of your feet. Feel the breath in your belly, coming into the belly, and as we exhale, imagine the energy going down your arms and uh, down your spine to the tailbone and into the earth. And as we do that, we also feel the energy of our head, where all the thinking, verbal stuff's going on, and just feel like as you breathe in, it's almost like there's a little vacuum cleaner at the bottom of your spine that's like sucking that intense verbal energy just down into your belly and into the earth. And then bring your awareness to the middle part of your body, breathing into the lower back, your kidney region. It's important to breathe there. When we breathe into our kidneys, it relaxes our fears. It helps us to keep our spine straight. Because when we sit and meditate, we can use our breathing to hold our body straight rather than our muscles. So it's much more relaxing. And then still breathing into the belly, but allow the breath to come up through the middle of your back, under the cage, and feel it slightly lifting the ribs, slightly lifting the breast, opening up your chest. And then also now feel the energy going down your arms and feel the palms of your hands opening. And then bring the awareness to your head and feel all your brain energy just filled with white light. And feel your brow relax, and your eye sockets in your ears, and your jaw. And almost feel like at the back of your mouth and the upper palate, like that's opening up, like there's a little like ping pong ball size of light back there. And that helps to adjust the relationship between your skull and your spine. Maybe just move your head around just a little bit, like feel where that place where your skull sits on top of your spine. Because the jaw connects in there. You've all seen skeletons. Just feel that the Chinese call it the jade pillow, the place at the back of your spine where you're. And see if you can feel through the mouth, opening that up a little bit. And your sinuses, so your whole body starts to open from the inside. The Tibetans call this the hollow body meditation. So you begin to feel your body hollow and made of light. And you can even feel the pores of your skin opening. So your whole body becomes more light. And maintaining that awareness of the pelvis area and keeping that energy coming down into the lower part of your body as well. And just feel how soothing the breath can be when you just let the body breathe itself. And remember, the tongue touches the roof of the mouth and the jaw is quite soft. Your teeth aren't touching. You might even want to put a little Mona Lisa type smile on your face. And then we can visualize, imagine our guru, whether you can visualize it, imagine it as a deity, maybe Tara or Chenrezig or Medicine Buddha, whichever, however you resonate. It could be Geshe Sherab, it could be His Holiness the Dalai Lama, it could be Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Whichever humanoid form, deity or person, Robina. Just imagine them in the space in front of you, looking at you, together with all of us in this room. We're all in this together and on the Zoom with all the sentient beings. But feeling like this object, this person, personified Buddha, is looking at us with complete, total acceptance and unconditional love, like no matter what, we're loved by this being. And in the presence of this being and in the community of our group here, we can allow ourselves to feel safe. And if it's helpful, we can do a little exercise from Thich Nhat Hanh. We can feel or think, when I breathe in, I feel love. And when I breathe out, I feel safe. And if we want to, we can add the experience of light coming, filling our bodies. Whatever color comes to you, or white or rainbow light. And this light is in this nature of love and safety. And knowing what we know about the qualities of a Buddha, we can feel that all these qualities are pouring into us from our Lama, our deity. So we're still connected with feeling this whole hollow body, breathing in the purifying, energizing nectars and rays from the Lama. So we don't have to be verbal, we just feel. I mean, if you want to be, you can. This opening to receive all the blessings and allow our hearts to open to all sentient beings. So if it helps, sometimes it's good to remember the people we actually love, or remember times when we felt love. It could be our pets, our animals, the world, the planet, our earth, our friends, our mother, somebody, some feeling. It actually brings a warmth and emotional quality to this meditation so that it's not cold. And we can do this with our eyes closed or open. Wishing all beings, including myself, to be healed and whole. So we keep adding on. So then what we can do is, as we're breathing in this light and love from the Guru, it comes into us. And also when we exhale, then it goes out through all our pores and touches all the sentient beings. And we can, add like we do our father on our right and our mother on our left. Then we also notice that sense of, I'm breathing, I'm paying attention to my body, I'm allowing myself to feel these blessings of the Guru pour into me and out to others. There's always this, subjective, I'm doing this. And so then the last little step at the beginning is this still feeling the wholeness of the body and the sentient beings and the Guru and the space in front of us. But still, with another little part of our mind, we recognize the I that's doing this. I'm sitting here. And it almost feels like it's something in the middle of my chest. I'm here, looking out. I'm here, feeling this. And so then when we're breathing in with these lights of love and safety, we feel that like it's like that sense of I is like an ice cube floating in the sea. And as we breathe it in, every time we breathe in this love and light and share it with sentient beings, this I, that ice cube, begins to melt and become more and more spacious, filling up the body, out through the pores, touching all the sentient beings. And if you need to just relax for a moment, just don't, you don't have to get up and do anything, but just like let your concentration relax and just be for a moment. Maybe open your eyes and just look at the floor. Just be with what we've just done. Because we tend to always put a little bit too much effort into what we do. So we just have to have confidence that it's happening. My guru loves me. I love sentient beings. It's very simple. So Lama Yeshe gave a really profound teaching on refuge one time. And he said that taking refuge, real refuge, is taking refuge without words. And I feel like this is what he means, just letting yourself be under the protection and guidance of the Guru, taking refuge. I'm safe, I'm loved, I'm whole. And within that space, allowing the bodhicitta to bloom. Love for all sentient beings, and relaxing into the non-findability of the subjective experience of me. And we use our breath as the anchor for this meditation. And we use the spatial awareness of our body to begin to open up to this hollow body experience, which is the foundation of all tantric practice. You can't do tantric practice without this. And of course, why? Open to love for ourselves and all sentient beings. So in this simple meditation, we can relax now. I think that's probably enough meditation for now. But in this simple refuge meditation, Guru Yoga, when we get to the part, every meditation has a 7-limb practice, starting with refuge and bodhicitta, and feeling that connectivity and I didn't mention it, but the awesomeness of being if you really think I'm in the presence of His Holiness, or in the presence of a great Buddha. In the 7-limb prayer, they talk about prostration, but it's just like allowing yourself to feel the awe of, yes, I can, because science has proven that everything that we experience comes from our mind. So we can create this environment where we can feel that awe, where we can feel that love, And then when we get to because when we really look into the simple meditations, they're so profound. Because when we get to the part where, we offer everything, make happiness, we see beautiful flowers everywhere, and, we can fill the world with these beautiful things that make us happy, all within the context of the keeping this meditation going. It's like this meditation that we just did is like, if you can just practice that, it's the foundation that all the other ones are built on. And so then, like, anyway, I don't talk too much. But the point I wanted to get to is when we get to the point of the confession, if we can do this meditation, if we really allow ourselves to feel that safety, and I didn't mention connectedness, when we're connected to sentient beings and we feel the safety and we feel the love, then stuff will come. If we really can relax, then our personal issues may begin to come up. And if we don't push them away and we don't try to change them, but just sit with them, whatever the issue is, it might be just something might be something just current in your family, or it might be something with your job, or it might be something, or if you're in a retreat, things from your early childhood can come up. And the thing is, if you just sit with them and let this visualization of these light rays coming in and filling your whole body with this love and light from the guru, it takes practice. It doesn't happen the first time, Then those things begin to be healed, and your life becomes more flexible. I remember Lama used to say the sign of your Dharma practice is when you're more flexible. You're not tight. You can move and flow with what's happening with your life, even just on a day-to-day basis. Traffic jam. Oh, okay. I'm going to breathe. So, yeah, I don't, I could talk a lot about things, but I sort of don't want to. Because the idea behind this deeper healing is that but this has been my experience, that I really believe that it is our authentic self that transforms and moves towards the Dharma. It's not the false one that we created to survive childhood. And the way we can access and heal these behaviors that we adapted is by allowing it just to be there, and allowing, because what the trauma therapists say is that what you need to be heard and to be witnessed. And I feel that so many of us, we can do it. Lama said, be your own therapist. I'm sure you've all heard that, So what Guru Yoga is about is if we really can allow that loving being to be with us, and even if it's just mentally, it's that witness, that authority that we need to get that healing from. And I think Christians, they have God. We don't have God. And we don't have to have God. But Buddhism does have this sense of a healer, whether it's doesn't be male, female, Tara, white Tara, Jinrezig, holiness, And so in that environment, we can be witnessed and be heard and be connected to sentient beings, even if we're by ourselves. And because it works. And that's how solitary retreat, that's how it can work for you, because because so many of us, we may have lots and lots of friends and be very busy, but we're still kind of alone, So this is a way that we can really make friends with yourself. Because for Dharma to work, we have to become our own best friend. And we have to begin to respect our own sense of guidance. The whole point of Guru Yoga is to become your own guru. It's not to do what somebody else wants you to do. And, of course, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, he'll help you and he'll guide you. But the whole reason he does it is because he wants you to grow up and guide yourself, And so, and the problem that I have had is that if I'm not in touch with my authentic self, I don't know how to guide myself, because I'm still doing what my mother wanted me to do, and my fourth grade teacher wanted me to do, and my husband wants me to do. I don't know what I want to do. So how am I going to access my Buddha nature if I'm still being who everybody else wants me to be? And so I think that's really what Guru Yoga is about, is to find our true connection with our true self, and within that, then heal ourselves and be, uh, I hate to use that word, but hold the space, for other people to be able to be that way too. And I believe that that's why we were so attracted to Lama Yeshe, because he was so authentically himself. And he was so able to look at you and see your authentic person and mirror that to you, that it was just addictive. He was like the Pied Piper. He was just going around gathering all the hippies, and making them feel liberated, just by being in his presence, because he was so powerfully authentic himself and so connected to his own inner guru. And so Guru Yoga gets so twisted now because we all think it's about doing what somebody else wants us to do. And we've done that all our lives, you know? So I just sort of wanted to give a taste of that. I don't have a days or anything, but because what they say about healing those personality traits that aren't really truly us is we have to be in a safe enough place that we can let it come up, you know? And then within that place, love it, And because we have these teachings on emptiness, we can also add that, it's not really me, you know. This is just a thought and a behavior that I adapted, to like be able to manage my first grade classroom or whatever it was, And because there are, psychologists that say, our personality isn't us. Our personality is how we adapted to survive. So who's me? You know, and it's that me, that real one that we're talking about the relative. I mean, I'm not talking too much about the emptiness of self, but we also need to have a healthy relative self, and that's what to go towards enlightenment. Otherwise, our Dharma practice is just going around, we end up like trying to manage everybody else too, in the name of bodhicitta. Oh, I'm helping you now, I mean, I still try to help too much, but yeah. So I just think so. In order to, I think that's about all I really want to say. But the main things, that we need to heal ourselves is connection and being heard. Just letting our authentic self be heard, and we can do that without a therapist. I think that this is more powerful. But that training ourselves to be in our bodies and breathe with our whole selves, because all of these um, hidden beliefs that run our lives, that's what I'm talking about, hidden belief systems, they all have a place in our body. And so when we learn to breathe with this open body, we're also, breathing into those places because they have a voice. And whether you use your verbal stuff to, what might come to you when you're meditating, a line would come to you, oh, this is one of my unconscious beliefs. This is one of the things that's holding me back. It might come to you first verbally, but it might also, if you're sitting and breathing in your body, it might come out of your liver or something, like that. And so, yeah, so maybe I'll stop and we can chat a bit, because I was going to do something different. I was going to meditate on the 5 elements, and we're going to do Mahamudra meditation, but what always happens is something else happens. So, so if nobody have any questions, we will do that, but if I just thought it in Zoom too, anybody wants to ask anything.
Are there any questions on Zoom?
Any questions online, please raise your hand.
Well, I mean, do you agree with me, or am I like full of shit, or, what is?
No, you're not. I love your teaching on this. I love the teaching of the body
Yeah,
and how movement is also involved with the energy of our bodies
yeah,
and bringing all that in.
yeah,
Teaching it from a more Western um, perspective
yeah,
is helpful. It's
yeah.
very helpful because we do get too tight, I believe.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm enjoying your viewpoint on this.
Well, I'm not saying that we shouldn't take traditional teachings. I have taken many, many traditional teachings, and I've done years of traditional practice. But what I'm trying to do is help people make the traditional teachings work for them. That's what kind of I feel like. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother teaching. Chichester is way better than I am at teaching traditional stuff. You don't need me for that. I mean, I can go through the 8 freedoms and the 10 endowments, and we can talk about death and impermanence, and I can tell you about, cause and effect and how we get bodhicitta and all. I mean, I've done all that too, but I just don't feel like that's not really what I want to share with people anymore.
Question online, I think. Susan, do you want to unmute?
Yes, I want to thank you. This was a really good, interesting presentation. I mean, it really spoke to me. I like the way you explain things. It doesn't have an overlay of any kind of, what's the word? Not dogma, but it's just yourself speaking, and I really appreciate that. Because you said some things that I don't know, I haven't thought about before, like we need to have a healthy relative self. Always we're talking about emptiness and how to get there. And it's like, oh yeah, we do need to have see it from
Yeah.
this other aspect. And we need connection and being heard. That's just so important.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your very courageous presentation.
Well, the thing is, emptiness is our goal, but we can't realize emptiness without really being aware of our karma. And as long as we have these triggers, and as long as we have these false behaviors, we're making negative karma all the time. And then we're like, oh, now I'm going to do my vajrasattva because I did this today, But why not get at the root of it and stop creating negative karma, you know? Instead of like putting Lama used to say, don't put yourself in a concentration camp. Well, what we do, we meet Tibetan Buddhism, we put ourselves in a concentration camp, and then we end up like exploding and making all this negative karma at some point because you can't be tight all the time. Lama used to go, you guys meditate like, he'd do he'd screw up his face, and we do. I mean, you see the lines in my face because I meditated like this for years before I learned how to relax, Because, as I was trying to say in the beginning, I'm not sure about the new generation, but the Tibetans that Jeff and I met that came out of Tibet, you got to realize, they didn't have clocks. They walked everywhere. They didn't have cars, I mean, years ago, there was a woman, I don't know if you ever knew this, there was a woman who lived in Santa Fe named Maggie Kress, and she was a Dharma practitioner. You probably don't know her, but she had a retreat center up in Colorado where I lived for a while, and she invited the Gendon Tripa to come, and the Gendon Tripa's, his name was John Paul Shempen, not the current Gendon Tripa, but this is 1985 or 6 or something. And his attendant came, who's a Geshe now, and my friend Roger was trying to teach him how to drive. He just could not do 2 things at once. He couldn't put the clutch in and change the gears and he couldn't, because their minds were so uncomplicated, So we have to realize it. And our world's getting faster and faster and faster all the time. Like, I don't know how, I'm so glad now that there are these great apps on the phones to help people meditate. Because I don't think they would otherwise. People have to be looking at their phone all the time. But now they can look at their phone and maybe find a little peace of mind too. So Yeah. Anyway. Well, we have about 10 more minutes. If nobody has anything more to say, we'll do a really quick little meditation. Would you like to do that? Okay. How about you, Jeff? Anything else? Did I leave something else? Jeff's, Jeff's an old practitioner too. He could be up here teaching as much as I could. Yeah. 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 Okay, well then we might go over about 5 minutes, but I'm gonna do this kind of quickly. But this was the teaching. I never did the teaching from Padampa Sangha. This is it now. This was the one from Padampa Sangha. So this has to do with the 5 elements, okay? So we go back to the hollow breathing and what we can do is we had the guru on the crown of our head, right? So, or in front of us. So we're just going to quickly allow ourselves to finish the Guru Yoga, because this is how we always end Guru Yoga. We have, in fact, maybe we'll just do this. I'll have to come back and teach you the Padampa Sangha meditation sometime. We'll just end the Guru Yoga. So whoever it was that you were visualizing, Padmasambhava or Tara or whatever, so they're still in the space in front of us. And we're still breathing. I have to relax my legs again. So we make a little prayer to the Lama or the deity. You can do it in your own words, but just asking for purification. You know what you'd like to purify and what you'd like to bring into your life. Of course, we always pray for bodhicitta, isn't it? But in other things as well. And just make a strong wish to like you have to really feel it in your heart that you want to change and you want to become a Buddha and you want to make a difference in the world. And please, Guru, help me be able to do this. You know, if you had more time, you could do the 4 measurables, but we don't have time now. And so then from the brow chakra of our Guru, Lama, deity, a white nectars and rays pour it from the Lama's forehead into our forehead. And again, we go back into feeling our whole body being filled with white light. So down your legs and arms, pelvis, breathing into your whole body, your head, especially that brain. We don't want to get Alzheimer's. We're all old people here. Light up the brain with light. Whatever, if you have an organ that's not well, you can breathe into that extra light to your lungs, your heart, your kidneys, liver, bladder. We can do that while we still feel our hollow body made of light. It's all possible. And just feel like all the obscurations that to do with our body, all the past karmas that create the cause for us to be ill, to harm others, completely being purified. The blessings of the Buddha's body become oneness with our own body. And just have faith. What we believe becomes real. And then from the throat chakra of the Buddha, deity, guru, the red lights, you can add nectars if you want, red lights and nectars go into our throat and fill our whole body. So feel that hollow body again, down the arms, down the legs, and the torso, the head. Red light, purifying our subtle body, all the subtle winds, and all our tendencies and obscurations to do with our speech. All the harm that we've done to ourselves, and not just like speech, but all of our verbal, all of our thinking, especially the negative speech towards ourselves, how judgmental we are towards ourselves. Completely being purified. The way our mind is when we're not doing. Usually when we're not doing anything, our minds, we start feeling shame or blame, or we're down on ourselves, or we think I should have done this and I should have done that. All that doesn't need to be there. It's somebody else's voice, not mine. So purifying all those voices that hold us back from realizing our Buddha nature. Red light all through the body. And believe it. And then we believe that my speech has become oneness with the Buddha's holy speech. And then from the heart chakra of the Buddha, Guru, deity, to my heart, blue light, purifying all of our wrong concepts, especially the unconscious ones, particularly the most basic grasping in the self. Feeling that sense of I, like I said before, just melting like an ice cube in a sea of awareness. Feeling that space all around us, full of all the sentient beings, and becoming oneness with that space. Allowing the sense of I to spread out all through the body with the breath, and then out into the universe. So there's no more grasping at I, just spacious, loving awareness. Blue light coming from my Guru, Dharmakaya light. And feel and believe that my mind and the Buddha's mind are inseparably one. And then all three white, red, and blue lights pour into our bodies. And any subtle imprints of true existent, concrete existence completely purified. And I experience my mind, speech, and body oneness with the Buddhas. And then the deity or the Buddha or the teacher that we're visualizing in the space in front of us, like fog dissolving on our windshield when we turn on the defroster. They dissolve from the top down and the bottom up into a very tiny drop in the middle of their heart, which is the essence of the Buddha's body and mind. About the size of a mustard seed, very powerful, like nuclear power, nuclear energy. And that then comes to it's the essence of the Buddha, essence of the Guru, comes to the crown of my head and enters into a little opening at the crown of my head. It comes down through the center of my body, from the head, the throat, and then rests in the center of my heart. And I can imagine that in my heart, there's a lotus. And that lotus closes up around that drop, sealing the oneness of my mind with my Guru's mind into eternity. And then we just rest and allow whatever to be to be. Okay, now we can dedicate our merits. Do you want to do dedication prayers? We can, yeah. Okay, just if, just if your usual dedication. Okay. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, of course. Fearless teacher and assembly of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losang, father and son, together along with your lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through the explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable, venerable Guru, to you I make request. while striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of the Chichester of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. Isn't that great? Swiftly beam in glories. The grace granting, wish fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in the world, the incomparable kind, Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. So, also I'd like to pray for Oselhita to have all of his wishes fulfilled and for this Dharma Center to flourish and grow. It's an amazing place. I'm so impressed. And thank you all for letting Jeff and I stay here for a couple nights. It's been really nice to visit Santa Fe again. And yeah, for the Dharma to flourish in the hearts of all sentient beings and for there to be peace in the world and climate sanity and climate justice and particularly sane politics in this country and in the world, that we can have people who are in government for others instead of for money. And I just want to say that this Guru Yoga practice is how you get bodhicitta. You know, it's like the Guru has it. And when you really, I mean, there's a real truth to this idea of lineage and praying to gurus. It's not, and when you really supplicate the gurus, when you really do that practice, you know, bringing the nectars and rays and opening yourself up, it really does help to develop your realizations. And so that's why I wanted to share it with you, because, you know, they say Guru Yoga is the heart of practice. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean I have to go be a slave to my guru? No, you know, it means this, you know. Yeah. And also, I just want to say too, you know, I mean, check up who you take on as your guru, you know, and if you end up following somebody for a certain amount of time and realize that you made a mistake or that they're showing behaviors that you don't think is you want to follow anymore, it's no big deal. You know, you're not going to break any vows. You're not going to go to hell. You just like, thank you very much for what I learned from you. And you just put it over here and you just keep going. And this is what the Dalai Lama taught to us years and years ago. So it's not, we have to be modern people and realize that they're, you know, within the Tibetan community, they're harmed by people who have trouble too, you know, and they may end up in a very high place because their system is like any other institution. It's no different than any other one. We'd like to think it is, but humans are humans. And there are some amazing teachers, and there's a lot to learn, but we can't go in there with blind eyes thinking everybody's cool. You know? Yeah. Okay, thanks. Thank you, Linda. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, everyone, for coming online.
Thank you, Paula. We want you to come back again.
Yeah, well, we'll see what karma happens.